Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sales School. Today, we're joined by Manav, one of the sharpest SDRs in the game right now. He's not just doing his job, he's mastering it. While most chase quick promotions to AE roles, Manav is doubling down on becoming world class at the top of the funnel sales. In this episode, we go deep into his daily mindset, his systems, and what keeps him going on the toughest days. Insights every SDR wants to hear. And in the second half, we flip the script. What should founders and sales leaders really look for when hiring SDRs? Manav shares what separates the average from the exceptional and why companies so often get it wrong. Let's dive in. Manav, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Karthik. I think this has been long overdue, but really looking forward to this conversation.
Good things come to those who wait, like they say. Let's dive into the first question.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So I want to take you to the beginning, right? How did you get into sales and why the SDR role in particular?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. If I look back now, sales kept knocking at my door, but then I wasn't paying enough attention. I started unofficially selling as a cosmetic salesman at a chemist shop when I was 15. And then I really didn't know that this would be the career I would end up in. After 12th, I was pursuing my chartered accountancy, cleared my entrance, was prepping up, and then later realized this will take half a decade to pay up. And at that point in life, I had to earn becoming the sole earner of the family. So I thought, let me go to the founder of this institute where I was studying, and I said, let me work with you. And then I started selling to people my age. Uh, and that clicked really well. We were able to build some of the biggest face-to-face batches. This was pre-EdTech era, so to speak, where people, institutes like Akash, they were still pivoting to digital. So I did all of that for them, and then we built one of the biggest face-to-face batches for them pan India. Eventually, ended up leading a team of 5. Uh, and still, I thought sales is not for me. I ended up started as a content writer at a marketing agency, so to speak. And because I loved writing, I thought, let's give it a shot. And it was only a few months later I realized if you're not a Ruskin Bond or J.K. Rowling, you're not paid good enough. And coincidentally, that's the time their sales guy also left. So I thought, okay, let me try this now. I reached out to the founder, their team of 5 people, and it said, let me do this as well. I picked up that up and then started working with some of the biggest brands across real money gaming, which is disease industry now, BFSI, fintech, and then crafted relationships with them, doing end-to-end sales. And we did really good, 0 to 3 million INR in just 2 months. And when I got to know what people are willing to pay for an experience and skills like these in market, I was taken aback because I was really, really, really down the ladder. So I thought, okay, now let me double down on this. That became my motivation. And talking to more people, I realized that SDR seems to be the stepping stone if you get to that kind of a comp structure in a certain company. So hence I started as an SDR.
I think a couple
Yeah,
of things that stood out from what you said, right? When you wanted something, when you were curious, your ability to go to the founder and ask for that role, I think opened up some doors.
yeah. I think that opened a lot of doors in my life, in sales and otherwise as well. Just going an extra step and asking for it. The answer is always no, but it doesn't really harm if you ask. Uh,
If you never buy the lottery ticket, you'll never have a chance to win the lottery, right? Like, so it
yeah.
is you having to having gone there and taken that shot is what has got you to this point. Okay, let's talk about mindset, right? If you were to look back, what were the biggest mindset shifts you had to make in your first 6 months?
Well, if I have to look back, I think one key one key aspect of the process of overall sales cycle that has stuck with me is knowing your whom, why, and what, and especially in this order, particularly. If you know whom you're trying to solve the problem for, why it is rewarding for them to solve for that, why they'll be off their feet if they don't solve for it, and then what you can do for them, especially in this order. And I can Now look back, right? When I was at this coaching institute, I was studying the same course, eventually ended up selling to students of similar my age. And that really worked well because I knew their lives well. I knew the struggle they went through to understand what is a good course for them or what is not. Having that kind of understanding of your persona helps you get this innate empathy, which helps you transcend this transactional aspect of sales. And this is also what happened when I was working at this marketing agency. I was part of Digistar Labs. We were a very small team of 5 people. No one had heard of us in the market, and these bigger brands, mammoths of brands like India Bulls, Angel Broking, they won't give you buying orders if they really didn't know you. They are working with Dentsus of the world. So who has heard of Digital Labs, small people working from home? But what really worked was, again, we were on the buying side not a long back. So we really knew what they wanted to buy, what was the pain that was there in their life when they were trying to buy things. Now, when we were selling, it was just flipping the script and putting in the words they would understand most. And that clicked. We went from 0 to 3 million in just 2 months, becoming direct partners with these brands. So, just understanding the personas, their day to day lives, what rewards them, what doesn't really kick them up, helps you go along, man. I would say. Often when you enter companies, the focus is a lot more on understand the product,
Yeah.
but no one really focuses on there's a stage they tell you this is the person you're selling to, this is your persona, but no one goes beyond that. And I think this is where there's a big gap right now in terms of how we train and ramp SDRs up.
So I think that we should really understand, get into the customer's shoes, right? Walk a mile in their shoes to really live their
Yeah.
pain, so that we'll be able to see if it's the right fit for them. And I think a little bit of that in what you do as an SDR is not just qualifying prospects in. It's also a very important part is qualifying prospects out, right? So your AE is not
Right.
spending that much time just chasing his own tail. Interesting.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
Let's
Right.
work into look at specifics, right? Uh, what does your day actually look like? So, what systems or habits, keep you sharp? I can tell that you're using a standing desk. Is that one of it?
Yeah, that's one of it. I remember speaking to my coach once, and then he said, "You really need to invest in yourself, right? Your inner work, your sadhana is you, because the institution is not the goal. At the end of the day, you're working for a company, you are chasing their quotas, but at the same time, that is not the goal. The goal should be right where I was yesterday and where I want to be today. Because if that is not in place, the company you are at, is just a month away from firing you.
Yeah.
Simply put. And at the end of the day, you have to be the student of the game. I have realized you really need to invest in yourself. Be it this working desk, which I would say, I was being so cheap, not buying it for a long time. But then I think I really had to invest in it. One of the key things is that I would necessarily dedicate 30 to 40 minutes daily basis to really go through what I have done in the past. At my current company, in the previous companies, really auditing the conversations I've had. And that gives you a sense of understanding, right, how people react in certain sales conversations. Because in the moment when you're having a conversation, it is often not so easy to be so introspective about how the conversation is going. But then when you look back, it is very easy to see, oh, this should have you know this should have happened differently, or this is something I did really well. So going through that and building my playbook, so whenever I work at a company, I bring those playbooks up that help me shift gears faster than other reps that are there. And
Yeah.
there are amazing tools today like Hyperbound, which helps you practice your cold calling skills. And that is something I also make a lot of.
You invest in I think I'm hearing from you, self reflection is a part of your daily, if not weekly, routine, right? You're almost looking at coaching yourself to be better
Right.
than you were yesterday. You mentioned you were talking to your coach, right?
Yeah.
Is that someone that is inside your organization right now, or do you have someone that you regularly go to get some
Yeah.
feedback or improve?
Yeah, not particularly in my organizations, but in my life in general, I met a really good person, my coach, my guru, so to speak. And he taught me a lot of things in different aspects of life, not just work, right? And how to really carry yourself through life. And I think having fundamentals set in all different areas of life really helps you do well in each and every one of them. One thing is you just keep sliding away like a kite and like a kite in the sky, or you take the rein in your hands and really see where you're going. So yeah.
Interesting, interesting. You've chosen to double down on being a great SDR, being an SDR leader, and looking to have the next immediate career in this SDR space, instead of rushing and becoming an AE, which
Yeah.
is usually what the career transition for an SDR is. Why?
Well, I'll be honest, for the most part, like everyone out there, I wanted to be an AE. Uh, Even if we had spoken 2 quarters back, that was the goal. That was the thing I was working towards. I had unfortunate incidents in the past where I was about to be an AE, but then certain internal objectives changed, and then I didn't ended up in that role. But now there are two aspects. I'm thinking. One is that if you really want to be a great AE, at some point in time, travel is involved. And at this point in time in my life, I think that is something I'm not really comfortable with. And the second aspect is I'm noticing a lot of organizations like Lovable and few other who have a team of not more than 40, 50 people doing ARR worth 10 million or so. This is the future, I think. Lean teams, profitable, and there I think there's a huge scope of people not just starting as an SDR as the stepping stone of the sales process, but being the stone itself. Because organization like these need people who have seen enough pitfalls, who can take them through them faster because of their experience. So that's where I think my ambition lies today. Helping organizations move faster with the skills I have as an SDR, not just as a stepping stone of their sales cycle, perhaps.
Do you think that is a viable career option for people who start out as SDRs? And just to give context, SDR is probably the first role that a sales rep has. So they are relatively inexperienced. Um, so my question is, does that mean that SDRs have the ability to remain in that space for 5, maybe 10 years?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, right? And lately, we see, as we mentioned, Lovable, right? There are so many AI products coming out right now, such a certain speed. We have never seen, companies shipping products like this ever in the past. And with this, what also happens is tech is no longer the moat. It's the GTM that would drive them further. When that is the goal, and that is the ambition teams are working with, uh, starting with at times within SDR who is just starting out is not a viable option for them. They would really need someone who has done it all before, failed enough to help them succeed this time. So I think if someone wants to progress in this career down the line, that's the area, that's the Venn diagram they would fit very well in. Organizations that want to move really fast from Series A to Series B, don't have time to experiment a lot, need someone to bring their playbooks in and take them further. As far as starting out as an SDR is concerned, I think there's no better time now. There has been no better time in the past because uh, GTM is so much in demand now. This is one thing AI will augment but not replace. Uh, so that's where I'm placing my bets on today.
And I'll give you a counterpoint. It may or may not be one that I personally agree with, but there is a lot of buzz in the market, and over the last 8 months to a year, with the whole AI SDR,
Yeah,
where the whole meeting scheduler, getting the first meeting, then for a human being to come in and carry out the sales process.
yeah,
That being the current environment, is your big bet still on a human SDR
Yeah.
trying to make space for himself or herself?
Right, that's what I feel. I think AI has always been in our life, right? The earliest example I can think of is calculators that we had. It removed the calculation humans need to do. It's just evolving to a different whole together space now. It's doing so much more. And as an SDR, right, even if you work towards an enterprise accounts like Nvidia and Cisco of the world, where they are more than 5 lakh people in their team, first of all, getting to the right people at times is just very challenging part, because a common persona that you would have put on clay and try to search people at times, they don't have people with that designation in their office. You'll need to skim through, and okay, scraping can solve for that, but then what would solve for reading between the lines, Karthik, when we are texting or over an email? To gauge your sentiment, right? You're saying X, but you mean Y, right? How would AI peel that onion up? That's the question. And this is where I think having a sense of empathy, having emotional intelligence would make SDRs more relevant in the future as well. And this is where I see, that is the future. Not a cyborg haunting us, but rather, AI being our Jarvis, like that of an Iron Man. So that's why I think this should work, and it would work.
Yeah. So I think working with AI and not being replaced by AI is the bet you're taking.
Yeah, that's side I'm on today.
Okay, awesome. We'll leave the serious whether an AI SDR
Right.
will take over or a human SDR will survive. We'll switch tracks a bit now. So, from your experience, what separates an average SDR from someone like you, who's an exceptional one?
That's yeah, I'll take that as a compliment and try to be humble. I think what really would help anyone be exceptional in what they are doing, apart from other who are trying as well, is just knowing your why. you know uh, just clearing that out, right? Why you are doing this. It can be a very personal reason, right? Taking care of your home, your expenses, your personal lifestyle, or it can be as good as, I want to be the Kobe Bryant of this field, right? I want to be the best. I want to be the Black Mamba. Just having that why really helps you put in the work, because the work we are in today as an SDR, 80% of our work is rejection.
Yeah.
So you are slammed down on the floor again and again, and you really need a solid reason to keep moving apart from your quotas, apart from overachieving them, because after a while it also becomes, I would say, too predictable, too mundane. So you really need a solid reason why you are going ahead. And I've seen personally those who have a solid reason, be it climbing up the sales ladder, or be it a very personal reason, they tend to go a long way.
What is a solid reason? What is a great why? What are some examples of that?
I can give you mine, right? When I started, I was a sole learner, and I was actually looking pay to paycheck, right? From where will my next paycheck come? I started at this institute, I was getting 6,000 a month. Then I was a writer getting 12,000 a month, and then that was not enough to sustain a family of two. That became my why. Right? I really need to pull myself up, really need to sustain things out. And at time, it was it turned out at that time that I really didn't like sales. I'm just doing it for the sake of it because it is paying me well. But then after a while, when I started wrapping my head into it, started learning more about it, right? Applied that to the work I was doing, then you started love it as well, right? Okay, now I am enjoying this. Okay, I learned this and I'm applying this and it is turning out well. Okay, I failed here, but then this helped me crack the bigger deal next time. Uh, you know, having those whys, I think that has helped me along the way really well.
I'm going to pick on what you said just towards the end of that
Yeah.
statement. You said having failed here, I realized that that could help me close my next deal,
Yeah.
right? Um, how do you treat failure, and is that what makes a average SDR a great SDR?
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't feel good. It really sucks, failing. whenever I'm about to close a bigger meeting, let's say, an enterprise of the whole, and I'm not able to, it really sucks. You have worked over it. You feel you'd be able to, but you have not been able to. But then the next thing you can do is, okay, move on to the next one. Uh, or you can go back later on and then again see where you went wrong or why it didn't click really well, and understanding what could have been done better. And this is something I've consciously doing consistently, month over month, week over week, day by day. And this has been one of the catalysts that has held me exceptionally tuned in myself well in terms of my contribution to any SDR function I've been a part of.
And I think that goes back to what you said in the beginning of the podcast, where you spoke about leaving some time to reflect, to
Yeah.
understand, and make yourself a better version. What's something you wish more founders or sales leaders understood about the SDR role? What are people missing out on? What's amazing about an SDR?
Yeah, there are two things in particular. One is still a larger perception that SDR is the stepping stone towards sale or any sales cycle. SDR, so to speak, is a starting stone. I think that's a view I'm totally contrary towards. Uh, if you just look back now, even when you are doing the SDR work, you're booking meetings, it's an end-to-end sales cycle. You are running a discovery, you're trying to qualify, and you're then trying to negotiate towards a meeting date, and then you're trying to close. Things remains in the basics remains same altogether. Things that change are few aspects in different sales cycle. Discovery, it's just not a part of the sales cycle that an AE would lead, but a process that exists throughout the sales cycle. And that's the understanding founders and a lot of hiring managers need to have towards SDR today, especially the experienced SDRs today that they are hiring or aim to hire. And second is there's a lot more focus on activity numbers when you are hiring someone. How many dials you can do? You can just read that in the job descriptions today. If you can make 100 dials a day, if you can do these many messages, if you can shoot these many emails, there's a lot more emphasis on it. And then at times this would just rub the wrong way and won't get the results people are expecting, because when you put a stick on someone's head to do that, people end up gamifying that. So it's easier for a rep to make certain amount of calls, make certain amount of messages or emails with all the tick that we have to just satisfy that particular person. I did my activity numbers, so you have nothing to complain about. But the focus should be on the quality of it. If the number of dials you're making, how conscious you have been with each dial, have you even earned the right to make that phone call? We have parallel dialers today who make calls like anything. Uh, in an hour, you can go through 10,000 contacts, but then how conscious you have been while making every call. I think that's the mindset both SDRs and SDR team leads need to have while looking for their next candidates and next job.
So, do you think, let's say, there are a lot of roles, some which we have hired for, called the founding SDR or the founding BDR role?
Yeah.
What should these founders be putting in those job descriptions? Because obviously, you're not a big advocate of just the activities, being put out there. So, how should they be thinking about hiring this SDR?
Well, one of the questions they can ask an interview process is, what was the toughest account you have prospected, and how did you get to a meeting there? This transcends beyond how many dials you made, how many emails you shooted, and actually would also help the candidate to understand, okay, if this is a good fit for me or not. Is the founder mature enough to understand the role or the value I bring in? Uh, and for these founders, what is essential for them is to have someone who has failed enough, have playbooks that he has made for himself along the way, so he can support them. And this is what we need to look for. Why in previous roles, okay, you overachieved, but what made you overachieve? What was the mindset? What was the process you were following? Was it just given by your manager, or was it something you developed on your own along the way across your tenure through different organizations? And if they can see that candidate bringing that playbooks up, that is something gold for them. They don't want to lose on that kind of candidate.
Interesting. So let's make this more fun, right? You are a founder or
Yeah.
you are hiring for an SDR. What would your hiring process look like? You know, what would that job description say? How would you do your interview? How would you screen certain people in or out? So I'd love to hear your perspective.
Well, the philosophy of it would be, they must have PhD. This is a term I've heard from my ex head of sales, Brian Lawrence, an amazing gem of a head of sales I've ever worked with. And he mentioned, a salesperson should be poor, hungry, driven. That's the definition of PhD he was carrying, not the usual one you get from colleges. And if someone is that, then even if he doesn't know how to cold call, even if he at times doesn't know how to shoot a email or message, those things can be taught very quickly, but the intent can never be taught. So that's the basis of every hiring discussion. But in terms of mature discussions where someone is hiring a founding SDR,
Yeah.
they really need to see if these SDRs have built certain playbooks that they have replicated org after org. uh, it can be certain processes they follow. How will they are always able to derive their sales calculation on their own without a SDR manager getting to them? Often in these roles, team leads are not there at the start. You have
Yeah.
to build everything from scratch up. So that ownership needs to be shown to the founder. Okay, I have done this in the past. I know my sales equation. I know how to glide through this.
Interesting. And again, some of these words that you've mentioned, maybe jargony. So I'm just going to break that up a little bit for everyone to understand. What would when you say SDRs have built their sales playbook, what is that like? What does that contain? How should a current SDR think about building his or her playbook? What is it, like a physical book? Is it a
Yeah,
digital book?
yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah, essentially, right? How well you have been doing your reps? uh, how have you been practicing yourself while at different organizations? So it can be as simple as, when you go to an org, how do you understand your persona? Is it that you are told you have to reach out to the CMO and you reach out, or you try to understand what's a CMO like today? What are their objectives like? You go in chat GPT and search, okay, tell me the objectives and reward systems for a CMO. What throws them off? What is their priority for this particular year? Get those details out and then carve out their daily routine. Think, okay, if I'm a CMO, I wake up at 7, what is my routine looking like? I have a meeting, these are the content of these meetings, these are the objectives I'm chasing in a day, and go through that day. Has someone does this work in the past for themselves, for the companies they were working for? Because no one actually tells you to do it in any company so far, so to speak. I've been through a lot of SDR functions and no one has invested in this. So this is the kind of a mindset founders need to look for founding SDRs. If they have put in the work to understand what they are doing, everyone can get to the quotas, but how are they getting to the quotas? How conscious they have been to get to their quotas? And that's the conversation they might want to have with them.
Interesting. So you're almost asking SDRs to build, let's say, a blueprint or processes that have helped them uh, become successful, or processes that they've seen that have failed. So they can. These are almost like repeatable
Right,
processes that they can take to various companies. And you
right.
said identification of persona, how they actually went about identifying the persona, what worked, what didn't, how certain times of the day calling helped for them, certain
Yeah,
times it didn't, stuff that one
yeah,
tends to look over or talk to
yeah.
your manager in, let's say, quarterly reviews or monthly reviews.
Right,
Have it very
right.
personal to yourself, and then
Yeah.
see if that can be repeated.
Yeah,
Very,
absolutely.
very.
Because if someone is hiring for a founding SDR, right, they want this person to come up and help them shift gears, because founders often, lead sales for this initial part of the sales cycle, and then they want someone experienced enough to come in. And if this person is also just dialing left, right, center like them, then what's the difference? If someone has really understood their craft, really understood his processes, because you're expected to shift gears faster for them. So you have room to experiment, but not a lot to fail.
Lovely. Um, our last question before we move into a rapid fire round. If a company wants to keep great SDRs, what should they absolutely not do?
I've been on the burning end of this particular question quite a few times. So I have two insights that I can share. I see them happening all across everywhere. First is overhired. As soon as these founding teams see some traction coming along, they think, okay, now we'll do the unitary. Too many SDRs are doing this many pipeline. Okay, let's go for. We'll have that much pipeline, and often that doesn't work like that. Uh,
Why
Often,
does it work?
right, hiring more SDRs doesn't only depend on if you have money or not, but also on the maturity of the sales development function.
Okay.
Have you carved out the account books? Do you have the rule of engagement in play? What do you expect this SDR to do? Otherwise, they are just stepping on each other's toes, fighting each other like anything. And that's the last thing you want in a founding team. People grabbing their throat and just trying to move ahead. Uh, so even if you have money in your pocket, you really need to see if the maturity of the sales development function is there to hire more.
Interesting. And would that be, let's say, where you trust your SDR manager to have grown SDR teams before, so that nuances that you mentioned, again, rules of engagement tend to become more and more, let's say, interesting a
Yeah,
space to be in as you grow. You
right,
need an experienced SDR manager who's been through a 5 to 10 to 15 SDR group to be
right.
able to advise the CEO of the risks and the pitfalls, if you will.
Right, that is one way to do things. And even if, let's say, a founding SDR is there, and now the founder is planning to get a team of three more SDRs in together. So this founding SDR can actually play a very critical role because he has been through enough SDR functions to see what works and what doesn't work. Right, even if he's not a manager, he can actually put in the frameworks that he has built now throughout, and then bring set the foundation for him and the larger team that would come, and that can also be the stepping stone for him to be the SDR manager there.
Yeah, interesting. Lovely. What else should they not do?
Well, one thing I've also realized along the way, apart from overhiring, they should have a very clear path for the SDRs they are hiring. Every interview process commits. You are hired as an SDR, you'll be an AE 3 quarters down the line. Okay,
Okay.
this is the commitment usually that is made, but then SDRs also need to ask, what is the process that you have today that would help me get there? What are the metrics need to come and play to get there? Because often conversations close 3 quarters after you are in AE, and then SDRs, oh, we are very happy. Okay, okay, okay. Clap, clap, clap. Okay, that's the end of the conversation. But then having those solid fundamentals in play, what needs to happen? What needs to work for you? For that to work for me is very essential. Or if I have to be a team lead, what needs to work? Having that kind of a conversation even before you have joined helps you actually understand the maturity of the founders also you're working with. Otherwise, you have promises that are not kept, and then you have a very unproductive environment for people to carry further.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of our main questions. We do have a rapid fire round. These are short, quick answers. Are you ready for
You,
the rapid fire?
would I get a hamper, Karthik?
No.
Let's do it.
Let's do this. First question: cold call or cold email, which is more fun?
Cold call.
One sales tool you can't live without.
Sales snap.
Not a problem. The worst opener you've ever used on a prospect.
I hope you are well. This email finds you.
If you weren't in sales, what would you be doing?
Writer. I would be writing.
Excellent. And my last question, and this is something we always ask our guests, is what's the kindest thing someone has done for you?
Well, I can actually call that person out, Brian Lawrence, my previous set of sales. It takes a lot of effort to pick people up and coach them, even if they are not directly under you, not under your management. Uh, just finding people up and then giving them enough resources so they can further improve themselves, be it towards an AE role or be it towards what they're doing today. Just a head of sales spending time with you to help you do better, be better, even though it's not part of his job, he's not measured upon that. Just goes a long way, right? Finding leaders like that and working under leaders like that, it's just an amazing opportunity, I would say.
Lovely. Manav, this brings us to the end of our podcast. You've been absolutely amazing, and I think what came across to me as we had our chat is the dedication and the detail and love you have for the craft of sales. I think it comes through really well from stumbling into sales and sales chasing you as a shadow. I think you are well on your way to owning and mastering this craft. So thank you so much. We hope you had a great time as well.
Thanks a lot, Karthik. I'm really grateful this happened. It's not very often you speak with people who have not only done things what they're speaking to you about, but also know and can relate to it really well. And I think what you and team are doing with Scooter, I think it's just an amazing initiative.